Content does not convert people. It's actually one of the silliest things that I've heard marketers say. The content itself doesn't convert people. We can get very on edge about what we feel is happening, what we think is happening, but do we ever really know? Did it do well? Did it not do well? Did people listen? Did they not listen? Did they watch or not watch? And we feel like we're witnessing our marketing. But today, I'm on a mission to make you excited about marketing data, because marketing data to me is the equivalent of understanding your blood work. Tracking data is not about just collecting any data that's readily available. It's about looking at what do we want the data to do. Oftentimes, we can make things more difficult than we need to in an effort to not get it done. Hello and welcome back to Ambitious. All right, today we are diving into a topic that I feel like, unless you're a nerd, potentially like me, who also is obsessed with marketing, you may not necessarily love the idea of data, but today I'm on a mission to make you excited about marketing data, because marketing data to me is the equivalent of understanding your blood work. Like if you're like, I'm sick and I got my blood work done. Oh, that's what it says. That's what it means. Okay, got it. And you feel like you finally have this understanding of what's happening and how to solve the problems that are in front of you. And that's how I feel with marketing data. When I understand my marketing, I finally understand what's going on with the things that are happening in my ecosystem of my business. So I am excited to talk all things marketing data today. If you are someone, by the way, who is new to the Ambitious podcast, I want to take a quick second to say thank you so much for listening and welcome to the Ambitious family. We're so excited to have you. And also, if you are one of our OG listeners and you know who you are, I'm just so excited to have you back. I have talked to some of you who are like, Kate, I haven't missed a single episode. I love tuning in, and I can't tell you enough how much your words and your messages and all of it just really do fill my bucket. Like, it absolutely means the world to me. So thank you to all of you who listen every week and also who reach out and just have the most incredible kind words. It means the world to me, as well as to our incredible team who help to edit and produce this podcast. So I want to dive into data because we want to ask ourselves, are we somebody who is really data focused enough? So are you someone in your marketing who does love data? Do you feel like you're like, Kate, I nerd out on it too? Or you're like, I know it's important and people tell me to look at it, but I feel like I'm not emphasizing it the way that I need to be. And maybe you have data. Maybe you are diving into your data, but you're not really sure, am I reading it right? Do I understand it properly? Or do I know what actions to take from it should I find something within that data? And also, do we know what to track? There's so much that you could track when it comes to marketing, right? There's all the different platforms and the followers and the growth and the clicks. And, do we track it all? Do we track some of it? And also, what exactly does data look like? And what do we care about depending on what marketing platform we're on? So, should we track something different if we have a podcast versus Instagram? Are there core things we should be tracking amongst all of those? Well, today we're going to answer all those questions, which is how to know if you're data focused enough, if you're using data wrong, the 3 areas you need to be tracking, as well as giving you specific examples on what it would look like on different platforms, for example, such as Instagram, Pinterest, podcast, and more, and how you would actually know what to look for in those to know that that marketing is performing. So I will say today is definitely going to be almost, dare I say, a masterclass in marketing data. So if you are someone who's listening, I want to make this as a mental note. Come back to this episode with a piece of paper and a pen, or you can go with a Google Doc, whatever feels good to you, and take some notes on this, because this is truly how I would deliver this if I was going to coach someone on it. And if you are someone also who's in the process of maybe co-working right now, the other thing you could also do is take today's episode and take some notes from this and put it into AI for yourself to kind of condense some of the things that you have and give yourself a structure. Because today is going to be a meaty one, but I want this to be something that gives you all the understanding of what's happening in your marketing ecosystem so you can take back control of your marketing. One of the things that so many of us feel is that our marketing is just kind of happening and we're watching it. Like, we'll put out an Instagram post or we'll put out, something on social media and we just wait. We wait to see how it does. Did it do well? Did it not do well? Did people listen? Did they not listen? Did they watch or not watch? and we feel like we're witnessing our marketing. The thing I want to use today for is an opportunity to show you how much in the driver's seat you really are, and how when you understand what to look for, and most importantly, what it means, that you can take back control of understanding how to make your marketing work for you and for your business goals. So, as I said at the beginning, if you guys know me, you know that I am a little nerd when it comes to data and strategy. I'm definitely somebody who, when I think about strategy and data in business, I think about it like a puzzle. I see all these pieces of the puzzle on the table, and I just want to know like how to maneuver those and put those all together in such a way that would allow me to be able to see the outcome that I want. And so I really nerd out on trying to make the picture all come together. And that's where I really love to dive into data, because one of the best things that one of my previous mentors, Xander, taught to me was the fact that it's all data, no drama. And that basically means that a lot of the time in business, we can get very emotional. We can get very, on edge about what we feel is happening, what we think is happening. But do we ever really know? And the only time that we really know is when it comes back to data. And the same thing, like I said at the beginning with blood work, right? Like I'm somebody who loves to get regular blood work done, because instead of me saying I feel like something's off or I feel like I'm not feeling this way, I can actually confidently know that something has changed based off my blood work. And the same is going to be true for your marketing. So, if you are somebody who loves data, then today's going to really land for you. But I also want to say, maybe you're someone who's like, well, I don't know. Am I data driven enough? Do I feel like I am putting enough emphasis on data? Maybe I could do better. These are some things I want you to think about to really know, are you really data driven? And these are some things that will come up if you're probably not someone who's focusing on data enough. So, one of the things that I see with a lot of entrepreneurs that you may resonate with is you say things like, nothing is working, and it feels like, one thing after another continues to flop, right? So you have an event that will happen in your business, a post doesn't do well, a launch doesn't do well, and you feel like you take that one little symbol, and that little symbol becomes nothing is working. And I can see, someone sends an email in a launch, it doesn't get a good open rate. They're like, see, my audience doesn't like my emails. Or you have a post on social media, it doesn't land with people. You're like, see, my reels never work for me. It's this really summary type thinking, the belief that this one event is the sign and the aha moment that you need to be your consensus that nothing is going to work and nothing is going to land. So, nothing is working is something that I see, this big blanket statement. I also see people who pivot as a result of that without letting things really play out. You have this quick urgency where you feel like you need to constantly change. If something's not selling within the first day, change it. If something is not landing on the first post, change it. If something is, maybe not had the pre-sale that you thought it should have, change it. Like you immediately pivot before you even have sometimes allowed the thing that was going to generate progress for you to generate progress. And so because you're changing so much, it's creating so much, yes, for you, evolution, and you think you're making progress, but what's actually happening is you're not even giving things the time they need to breathe to be able to get you any kind of result. I also see a lot of people who base their strategy on personal feelings. So like maybe you say things like, I feel like my audience is bored. I feel like my audience is not full of the ideal client I want. I feel like my audience is not the kind of people to invest. I feel like my audience are people who don't buy. I feel like they are people who don't want this right now. I feel like people are not buying. I hear all of the things that all start with, I feel. And listen, I, just like the next person, have feelings around my business. I have feelings in my own felt emotional experience around what I go through in the business. And I also can tell you that it doesn't necessarily mean that that's backed by data. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm right in what I feel. It just means that it's a feeling I'm experiencing that I'm allowed to acknowledge, but it doesn't mean that it's right. And I also see this as well. You react to one person or one event or one comment as if it represents an entire summary of people. So if someone, for example, does a podcast and they get a negative review on it, you're like, see, people don't like this topic. Or if you are somebody who put out an offer on your social and you create an invitation for people to buy and you say DM you, and people DM you and people start asking questions, you're like, see, this kind of buyer always has so many questions. You label people. You have this overarching label of these kinds of people or everyone or each person, right? It's always a summary thinking that one person in your world you've interacted with or experienced is a representation of a larger sum of people. And I also see a lot of chasing of trends with no purpose, posting reels because other people are, doing a series because another person did, just like really this aspect of rinse and repeat and duplicating because it's quote unquote trending, which means I guess I should be doing it. And most importantly, and lastly, making decisions from burnout or fear. So, for example, when someone goes into a launch, if it doesn't go the way that you want for the first 2 days, you're like, never mind, pull the offer. We're not doing it. It didn't sell. I'm not going to promote it. Or in that, sometimes even lowering prices out of a panic. Like I've seen people who've had maybe 2, 3 conversations about something that was a new offer. And because they got resistance on the price point from 2 conversations, like, oh, I see, I need to lower the price. People are not going to buy at this price point. So it really is, you'll see across a lot of it, it's this all or nothing thinking. It's this belief that this little piece of stimulus that we're getting from someone has this huge, big, deeper meaning. And I think the thing that data can really help us to do is it can help us to be able to really take the meaning from it, which is presented to us. When we're emotional about our business, what happens is we get some event that happens and we take this big, deep, long story and larger meaning to it. And that meaning is the thing that derails our business. When we have a database mindset and we don't get caught up in all the drama, and instead we look at the data and say, what does the data tell us? When we have numbers, it will literally tell us, regardless of how we feel, what's happening. Right. So, an example that I would give is, say, for example, someone's like, well, have I lost weight? If the question is, have I lost weight? Right. You may have adjusted sizes, you may have adjusted endurance, you may have adjusted strength. But let's just say the question was, have I lost weight? And you get on the scale for 10 days in a row and the weight has not changed. What does it tell us? Well, I feel like I've lost. I feel like I, have lost weight. I feel like I've this. Maybe you've gained muscle. Maybe your body is changing the way that it's structured. But technically, to the question of, have I lost weight? You haven't, because the weight has been the same for the last 10 days. Right. So, or to the personal contrast who says, I feel like I'm not losing weight. I feel like I'm just like not losing weight. Okay. And then you get on the scale and you've lost 2 pounds. You have data to tell you you have lost weight, or you have pants that used to not fit that now fit, tells you you have lost weight. Right. So there's literal data and metrics and markers that help us to really center what is true and pull in analysis to help us to make decisions and next steps in our business, regardless of how we might feel, both positive or negative. But here's the thing. Data is not all created equal. And I want to hit on this really quickly before we go into exactly what the data is we care about and where we would look to it and some examples. Because data can get very, very, very overwhelming if you don't understand how to do it properly. And that's because, if I'm going to be honest, every single thing that you want to track could be tracked. So I'm going to give you an example back to our fitness example. If I wanted to, I could track every ounce of water. I could track every minute of sleep. I could track all my steps during the day. I could track all my macros, so my carbs, fats, proteins. I could track my calories. I could track my fiber. I could track my workouts. I could track my rest days. I could track my weight, my pant sizes, my measurements, right? Just listing that off feels overwhelming. Just listing it off feels overwhelming. And so what we want to think about is, okay, well, I could track all of that. And technically speaking, that would give me a very detailed picture of what my journey with health might look like. However, it isn't necessarily going to help me to make a decision. Right? So let's just say that my goal for me right now, I'm doing like a body recomp, which basically means that I'm focused right now on kind of like leaning at my body, adding muscle, things like that. If I am somebody who wants to do that, for me specifically, what I'm tracking right now is I am pulling my average weight each week. I'm tracking how much protein I eat in a day, and I'm tracking my steps. I have 3 things that I'm tracking: my movement, and my food, and my overall progress average. Okay? Those are the only 3 things that I'm tracking. I have an awareness of the other things. Did I drink water today? Yes. Could I probably have done better? Probably. Did I sleep well last night? Not great, but I'm gonna try again tonight, right? Like I am aware of them, but I'm not tracking them. And here's why I accentuate this. You can track everything, but not really have a clear picture. Tracking data is not about just collecting any data that's readily available. It's about looking at what do we want the data to do. So one thing that is mistake number one, so many people track data of everything with not having a why. Your data should always be connected to a goal. The thing that you're tracking in your marketing is always a matter of what do you want to know, and then as a result, then we track it. So if you just get stuck in the reason I think most people don't like data, and this may even be you, you're like, I'm not excited about it. It just makes me overwhelmed. It's often because we're looking at all the metrics rather than just the metrics that really we care about to help us understand the story of what the goal is that we're looking to achieve. So as your goals change with your marketing, the data that you track will also change with that as well. So the other thing that I want to really caution you against is not doing something which I call data isolation, which basically means you cannot just look at one piece of data. It is the most skewed way to pull any kind of assessment. One post doing well, one launch doing well, one email that did well can, yes, be something that, kind of gets my attention and brings a level of awareness to me, but it doesn't necessarily tell me any kind of picture because we cannot pull a story and an assessment off of data. This is why in research studies, they will pull all kinds of different samples, all kinds of different people and situations and timelines and variables. And that's because they need all these different pieces of data for them to say, okay, here's the story that we're seeing. Here's the synopsis of what we're getting from it. The same thing is true with marketing. You cannot look at one piece of marketing as a sign and symbol of what all of your marketing is doing. So, the reason we care about this is we're looking at trends over time. So, usually I tell people, like, if you have never tracked marketing data before, and again, we're going to get into exactly what I mean by marketing data, but if you've never tracked your social or your email or your podcast or any of that before, I don't want you to tell me how one episode did. I want you to tell me over the last, say, with a podcast, 3 months of episodes. Let's look at that. If you're someone who's been posting on social and you're new to doing that, show me the last 30 days of data. Your email sequence. I want to know, how does your audience usually move when you're sending, average newsletters for 4 weeks versus a promotional campaign that we do and how they get activated. The thing that we want to know is that summary of data is really important, because otherwise, if we don't have that, we don't really have what we need to even make a clear assessment or to say something is quote unquote working or not working. Because the question becomes, in context to what? If we're going to say that something in our marketing, email, promotions, launches, or otherwise is working, we have to have a basis from which to compare it, which means we need more data. So I also, with this, will see people who are tracking the wrong things. And the easy way for me to distinguish right and wrong for you in this is you may be tracking things that are vanity metrics that are not actually outcome metrics. And I will tell you, the basis of the easiest mindset you can have in business as you scale specifically is that you always want to focus on not doing things to do them, or doing things just to move the needle, or doing things just to track it, right? We're looking at, how do we really protect the outcome? There's so much busy work that you can get lost in business if you should decide to, but it doesn't necessarily all lead to an outcome. And so what I mean by that is, okay, so let's just say your goal is that you're looking to get more people to book calls with you and more people to be activated by your content, right? So say you're putting out, social media content. For this example, we're going to say Instagram. If I'm putting Instagram content out and my goal is I want to nurture my audience and I want to get them to activate for my offer, you might get really, really excited and say, oh my gosh, great. My reel today got, 30,000 views on it. I'm so excited. My question is, if the outcome is to get people to your application or to your DMs, how many messages did you get from that reel? Or how many people did you get going back to your profile to binge, who then could become people who message you, who are interested in working with you? If you are someone who's looking at these really exciting metrics, i.e., typically vanity metrics, if you're looking at these just highlight reel things that you see on socials or on any given platform, while it can feel exciting and it can feel like I went viral and this popped off and that popped off, yes, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's moving the outcome for your business, right? Like I have seen too many people who have gone viral, who have gotten great views, who've gotten something that got shared a ton of times, but the outcome they were going for was not visibility. It was actually just, I want people to reach out about my offer. And the problem is, if you end up being the person who's not protecting the outcome, what it means is you will end up having a business with tons and tons and tons of people looking at your stuff, but never having anyone reach out. So it means that if we do not actually look at the right metrics, we're not going to get an understanding of how we can change our marketing to protect this specific outcome we're looking for. And it is essential element in looking at data. And before we go into how to analyze it, context matters. Okay. So I, for example, have a client who's in the ad space. And they had talked about the fact that there was a specific period of time during the US election where ads were not performing as well. And clients were like, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. I'm nervous. My ads are not doing what they used to do. Well, of course, they're not doing what they used to do because you're in the middle of an election and the buyer behavior has completely shifted in light of it all happening around this period of time. The other thing I would also note is if, say, your marketing doesn't do very well on a certain day, was there something happening during that day, right? So if there's like a natural disaster in the world or something, we saw this year with the floods that happened in Florida. If we're seeing that and you're somebody who's got content going out during that time, especially to an audience that lives in that area, yeah, like we might see a change happen in that marketing. So context around data is essential because if we don't have context, it's a big part of the story as to why something might do well, but it's also a big part of the story of why it might not be doing well. So you also really want to make sure anytime you look at data that you're also saying, have I given enough appreciation and enough consideration on how impactful the environment and the context around this is as well? And lastly, the other thing that I see, which is huge, is not reviewing data as a routine. You're only looking at it when things are either really, really crushing and you're doing super, super well. And like everything is like going and flowing in your business and nothing's ever felt better. And you're like, great. So because of that, I'm going to look at the data. Or you have the other side, which is the fact that you are in this place where things are not going the way you want and you're not seeing the movement that you'd like. And because of that, you're like, I got to look at the data. I got to understand the data. So, the thing that I would urge you to do and really want to kind of suggest and recommend is that data needs to become part of your routine as a business owner. And this is, by the way, not just for marketing, this is for every area of your business for this point. It could be financial data, it could be sales data, it can be team data, client data. It's really important that we understand that data is the way for us to understand our business. So you need to be making this a routine. Like I look at our sales and marketing data every single Monday with our team on our team meeting. And that's baked into our routine. It's not something that is a side note that like, oh, when we feel like sales are slow, then we'll go look at the data. Well, the best way to determine if sales were going to become slow is to see the downward trend of something happening in the information. The thing is, you have to be able to consistently look at it. So, something I want to urge you to do is try to make this a ritual for yourself, right? Like, make this a weekly thing that you do, make this a monthly audit that you do. And I'm going to give you 3 core pillars of what data we care about because I want to make this simple for you. I don't need you to have crazy dashboards and, all these insane amount of links everywhere and like crazy analytic places. Like I want to simplify this. And truthfully, I have seen businesses that are 7 and multiple 7 figures that if you really wanted to, you could put this in a spreadsheet. It doesn't need to be difficult, but it just needs to get done. Okay? So I'm going to say that again for anyone who didn't have it land, because this is a motto I want you to really lean into. It is not about making it difficult. It is about getting it done. And oftentimes, and I will speak for myself as to not trigger anybody else, oftentimes we can make things more difficult than we need to in an effort to not get it done, right? We're making data collection in our business this big, intricate, and you're like, oh, Kate, I'm feeling seen right now. And that's okay. That's why we're here. You're making data this really intricate thing because by making it intricate and dashboards and data, and I don't understand how to review it, and I don't know how to track it, and I don't have time for that, and I don't have a team. No. That's making it difficult. To do it really requires a spreadsheet with like 4 columns in it. That's it. So I don't need you to make data collection difficult and complex. I would actually urge you to not do that. And instead, we just want to make sure, instead of making it difficult, we just need to make sure it got done. And you need to be able to define whatever done looks like for you. So, what are we tracking is the big question, right? We feel like we can go into these platforms of LinkedIn, and we go into Instagram and email, and we feel like there's just like data out the wazoo, and we don't know what we're supposed to be tracking. What matters, what doesn't matter. And it's also the other thing, which is also the fun part about it, is the platforms are also changing all the time. We're seeing them shift often. And so, because of that, the data they provide to us is also changing. So, how do we navigate that? And that's where this comes in, which is the 3 buckets. These are the 3 buckets, by the way, that I care about with every single business. One of the things you hear us talk about a lot is the fact that we really speak to the fact that we focus on principles and not tactics. This is an example of this. What I talk to with clients day in, day out is about the principles of business, meaning things that if you understand the principle, you will be able to apply to your business. What we're going to go through today is an example and a case study of what a principle that we talk about means. The principle that we talk about around data, especially marketing data today, is these 3 buckets. And these buckets are something that are applicable to podcast, email, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. It does not matter what platform you're on. These 3 buckets are the ways that we basically assess how your marketing is doing and knowing that it's doing and hitting the outcomes that we want. Bucket numero uno is visibility. Visibility is basically how many new people are being exposed and seeing your content. How many new people are getting your content put in front of them? What is your reach? And the most important thing is 2 kind of subcategories under that, which is a new audience, a non, existing audience, non-follower audience getting access to your stuff, someone who does not know you and your brand, are they getting exposed to your brand? And then we also want to look at, are the people that you're trying to market to that have already been experienced to your brand, are they getting access to it? So are you actually getting your message in front of the people who need it, both people who are aware of you and who know you exist, as well as people who don't know that you exist yet? The goal is, with visibility, not just getting in front of people, but getting in front of the right people. And this is a really important distinction, which is why I'm not a huge advocate of just like, oh, well, in general, if you have views, then that's all that we care about. It's not just about that. It's about the fact as well, are we getting in front of the right audiences? Are we getting in front of the right people? And I have an example of this. I had a friend who posted something on TikTok and she went mega viral. Like, I mean, insane. I think the video got like 11 million views or something like that. It was really quite crazy. Anyway, she posts this video and it went viral, and it was her on vacation. So when she posts this video and it goes viral, the thing that she posted about while on vacation had literally nothing to do with what she did as a business and what she sold. It couldn't have been more polar opposite if she tried. And so she thought putting it up, it was never going to take off because it had nothing to do with anything. It was just a fun, cute video. But the fun, cute video got her and those 11 million views in front of a really non-ideal audience. So much so that when that video went viral and she had the video go crazy, she had to shut down her existing TikTok page and restart a new one because she had called in so many people who were non-ideal clients, all people who didn't resonate with her and her message at all. And so what ended up happening is, well, yes, again, vanity metrics. Great, we got visibility. We're so excited. It's not just about getting in front of people, it's about getting in front of the right people. So if I'm a business coach, but I get in front of, let's just say, 3 million people who are dog lovers looking for dog clothes, that's not going to be the same person who's going to want my services. So, because of that, well, yes, I got visibility, and maybe by some fluke, some of them are service based businesses who want coaching. Most likely, a lot of them are not going to resonate with me or my message. So, visibility is not just about getting in front of any people, it's about getting in front of the right people, meaning the people that you know are in the process of developing the problem that you solve, either are currently there or desiring actively right now to change it. So, it really is, when we think about visibility, this aspect of awareness and discovery of you as a brand. And so we really can define success in visibility. And if I look at anyone's marketing, a general assessment would be, are you getting new people who are discovering your business, your brand, and really your account, your profiles, if you're looking at social? Are you getting more people to know that it exists day in, day out? More today, this week, this month than ever before. If that metric is consistently increasing, what it tells us is we're getting new eyes. And the way I explain it to clients is, you don't want to fish in the same pond without any new fish being created, right? So if you are somebody who has had this pond and there's no reproduction happening and it's the same 12 fish, eventually you're going to run out of fish. So we need to make sure that if you're fishing in this lake every day, it's also replenishing itself, meaning that you're, again, the fishing being you selling and you converting people into clients. We need to make sure that you are getting access to being in front of the new ideal people you want to be in front of day in, day out, to help you to always have new fish to source from. So the first bucket is visibility. Okay. So that's metric category number one. Metric category number two is nurture, which is really where we want to know how deeply your audience on any given platform is interacting and activated and consuming your marketing. So, are they actually paying attention once they see it, right? When we first looked at visibility, we were looking at, okay, are people even seeing your marketing? But now we want to look at, okay, well, if people are seeing it, if I'm getting exposed to your marketing, am I even consuming it? Am I activated by it? Am I actually going and diving into it? Because for me to see on my For You page a quick video will give me views, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to go and binge your profile and go and consume more of your content. The two are not necessarily always correlated. So, this is why it's really important for us to understand the distinction. The goal with nurturing is to hold someone's attention and deliver value at such a level where you're actively getting people to consume more and more of your content and you're not having them scroll past it. We want them to binge our stuff and we want them to be someone who's consistently consuming. So, again, this doesn't have to be social media. This can be also email. It can be anything that you're putting in your marketing. We want to know, are people consuming it? Another example, again, not even necessarily related to online business, but say, I'm a Super Bowl ad. Well, we would want to look at, for consumption during our ad, did people click away on the screen? Were people watching it? Same thing on YouTube. If someone's getting exposed to my ad, I want to know, are people trying to click out as fast as possible? Or was the ad so entertaining that they actually watched it all the way through? That matters, because just knowing my ad got in front of X amount of people, well, that's great. But if 99.9% of all the people who saw your ad wanted it to go away as fast as possible, then that tells us that regardless of how many people it got in front of, no one wanted to see it. So it is a big factor. And so when we look at nurturing, what do we care about? Well, when we look at nurturing, we want to know people are watching, listening, and reading all the way through. They are consuming to the highest level that they possibly could to consume our stuff. And so this means things like saves, it could be clicks, it could be comments, it could be completion rate, right? We're looking at the retention really that an average person has to listening to us, watching us, or reading through anything that we're writing. So the second bucket is nurture, okay? How deeply your audience is interacting or consuming with your marketing. Now, this third one is going to be potentially a little bit different than what you may have experienced with other people who've talked about data, and I'm going to explain why. you're going to often hear people talk about things like content that converts. And I don't have so many thoughts on that. I don't understand what people are talking about when they're saying content that converts, because in the basis of business principles, and I'm going to go on like a 30-second tangent here for a second, but it just needs to be said, content does not convert people. It's actually one of the silliest things that I've heard marketers say. Content that converts doesn't make any sense because the content itself doesn't convert people. If I am buying into a mastermind, if I am buying into an agency, unless you have a digital product that is anywhere between like $7 to $2,000 as part of a passive funnel, okay, maybe. Content that converts is not a thing. And that's because your content's job is not to convert. That's the sales process's job. So if someone says to you, oh, we teach content that converts, ask a follow-up question. How do they convert? Oh, well, like in the DMs. Great. So then without the DMs, the content doesn't convert them then, is what you're saying. This, I'm so sorry, but this part of online marketing gets me because it does not make any sense. It literally is rooted in nothing and it's just marketing tactic. It's so silly. So please remember that marketing's job is not to convert. I would argue that I don't want to argue. I submit that I would look that marketing's job is to prime people. Marketing's job is to prep and prime people to be at a place where they are ready to convert. Whether they buy is strictly a byproduct of whether your sales process, whether DMs, phone call, application funnel, email funnel, all of that is what's required to actually get them over the finish line. So the content's job or the marketing's job is to bring them right to your storefront and to get them. The way I explain it to people is if you're a coffee shop and I give you a lineup out the door, okay? Like I have just given you 2 blocks worth of people who want to come and they're all ideal clients. They've been so excited. They've been watching your socials of you building this coffee shop. Can't wait to get a coffee in this coffee shop. And then they go to the front counter and they go to cash out. And you go and you say, okay, great. Well, like, I want to have this. Oh, we're sorry. We're out of that milk. Oh, okay. Well, like, do you guys have anything gluten-free? No, we don't. And you go through this list of things in the sales process. Well, the marketing's job was to bring people in who wanted coffee, who wanted the ambiance, who were ready to pay that price. If whatever you said the cash or how you cash them out put a bad taste in their mouth, i.e. your sales process, I did my job to get them into your storefront. That's marketing's job. If I'm marketing, I did my job. I made people know about your coffee shop, visibility. I got them to consume and again like go to the point where they're literally taking time out of their day and driving to your location, right? I got them to take action and be invested in you. But if they don't convert, it's not because of the marketing. It's because of the sales process. So the only time that I really want to hear about, conversion and connection to marketing is if you're getting the wrong ideal clients, if you're getting people who don't have the problem that you solve, if you're getting people who are notoriously at this place where they're very surprised by the investment, even that 9 times out of 10 is a marketing thing that we can dive into, right? But all of this idea of content that converts, I'm going to put a nail in this right now. It's BS. Because the thing that I will say is if you have a sales process, there's 50% of the equation that's not being considered in that. And what happens, if I'm just going to be really direct with you, because you guys have said that you like the direct feedback. So here you go. If you're not converting people and someone said, oh, it's content that converts, what does that do? It makes you feel shame. It makes you feel like, oh, well, if your content's not converting, it's because you're doing it wrong. No, it's because there's a whole other part of the sales process that we're not acknowledging. This is why number 3 exists, and it's a very specific word, and it's not conversion. Interest is the third category of data. The third category of data is interest for a reason. Interest is what we want to know or what we want to see, which tells us someone is interested and has buying intent. So if you want to make it on your notes, interest/intent, they have an intent to buy. They have an interest in buying. But they're not going to buy just because they consumed your marketing, but they have a interest or an intent to buy from you. They're raising their hand to go and say, "Hey, I'm so and so and I want to go through your sales process. I want to sign up. I want more info. I want the link to buy. I want your sales page. I want to get on a call with you. I want more info." The goal with the interest or the intent pillar of data is to help people to take the next step in commitment, to take the next step to join your list, send you a DM, download a freebie, make a purchase, book a call, fill out an application. It's just commitment around buying intent. That's what the interest category, which is the pillar number 3 of data, is. And how we define success is by a steady flow from the marketing of opt-ins, DMs, sales, applications, clicks. It's really this distinguishing factor between the link of your marketing to your leads. Okay. But you'll notice I didn't say sales. It's the connection between the marketing and the generation of leads who go into your sales funnel. If the sales process then starts, now it's the sales process's job to see it through, which means to get them to the finish line of actually investing. So, to summarize, the 3 core pillars of all marketing success are visibility, nurturing, and interest/intent. We need to get in front of new eyes and have more people know who we are and that we exist, about new eyes on our business and our brand. 2, we need to have nurturing people who are consuming and activated and diving in consistently with consumption into any of our marketing materials. And 3rd, we need to generate interest and buying intent. We cannot sell to people who don't have an intention to buy. So the marketing's job is to fill this line outside the storefront of your coffee shop. So once they come inside, your sales process can take over. That's the goal of all marketing. So visibility, nurturing, and interest. Okay. So now we know what the 3 buckets are. So you're like, okay, this feels like it makes sense. I get the 3 things I'm looking for, but what the heck does this mean for my email marketing or for my Instagram or for my TikTok or my Pinterest or my podcast, right? So I'm going to go through a couple different examples of different ways that we market as business owners and ways that you can look at visibility, nurturing, and interest and those categories and what you'd look at and why. So for example, we're going to start with email marketing. Email marketing, visibility. We're going to look at open rates. Okay. The open rates of your emails signal how many people are seeing your subject line and actually being pulled in. So again, how many people overall are going to see your stuff and are being pulled into consuming content, right? That means they're getting put into the nurture bucket. I also want to know with visibility, what is the overall list growth? So I want to know how many new subscribers are you getting every week, every month, every year. Okay. So if I was going to pick like 2 things in the visibility bucket of email, I would want to know how many people are getting added to your list. And of the people getting added, how many are opening your emails. Like that to me means they're seeing it, they're seeing the subject line, and they're activated. Now we want to know, are they consuming, right? So we want to know, okay, great. Are we actually getting the click through rate? So when someone is going through an email, I also want to know how many people are clicking on that email, how many people are engaging with the content that is inside of the email. And the other thing that we can also see, which is kind of getting a little bit nerdy now, but it's something that we want to look at, is also heat mapping, which is something a lot of people will talk about in context to websites. You can also heat map your website. For anyone who's not familiar with it, it basically means that you can link your website to a software that allows you to see how many people are actually consuming your site and specifically where they're going and how far. So if I'm looking for consumption, you can also do the same thing on email. You can see the reading time, which means how long is someone on average in your emails or on your emails. And you can also see the scroll heat map, which is how many people, when they open your email, how far are they scrolling in the email, which tells me how far are they consuming. Right? So that tells us what is the consumption. So how much, how long are they consuming, how much time or how much depth, and how many people are clicking through that email, right? Tells us the consumption. Now, last, again, we want to look at interest or intent. So we might see, if I have a call to action button, that says, click here to join my program or to apply, how many people are going to the sales page? How many people are going to the application? Now, you also, similar to myself, can have replies to your emails, which is a call to action that you have at the end of your email that encourages somebody to reach out to you and say, hey, if you're interested or if you resonate with this, message me this word or reply to this email. So it's a great call to action from an interest or an intent perspective. Another one also being conversions right from the email to the sale. So if you have a link, let's just say to a digital product, you can also have like click here to buy our masterclass, click here to buy our ebook. Now, one of the things that we do, and again, this is getting a little bit nerdy, so you don't necessarily need this. I want to also say that you should only do this if it solves a problem in your business. But what we do is we actually use Bitly links. So Bitly, Bitly. Bitly links are I almost want you to think about it like a tag. It's a tag that goes anywhere in your ecosystem of marketing that tells you where someone's coming from. So I almost want you to think about, it's going to sound weird, but I almost want you to think about like cattle, right? Like, you know how they tag cattle for the different livestock and the different sections of their livestock? It's the same kind of idea. If someone who's coming into your ecosystem is a lead, each lead is going to get a tag depending on where they came from. So if someone buys, let's just say a masterclass, and they have a separate link we use for email, I will know that that person had come from email because that's where they clicked from. If someone is clicking from Instagram, I will know how many people came from Instagram. So you can actually see the data of where people are coming from in your ecosystem. And I find with that, you can actually see where is their intent? Where are we getting interest? For example, if I promote a masterclass on my stories on Instagram versus on my email, and my email got 52 clicks, but my story got 3, where do we have a higher overall intent and interest? And again, it's not to say that we shouldn't try to change the stories and try to get them higher, but it tells us that the email is doing very well when it comes to intent and interest around a certain product or a certain offer. So that would be example around email. Let's go on a different side now, going into say podcasting. So for podcasting, again, remember the buckets are visibility, nurture, and interest. So if we're looking at visibility, I would want to know how many reviews and how is our ranking doing right now. So this is something that really is, I would say, in the podcast space, not absolutely needed and necessary, but it is something that is a good pulse check to see how are you doing. So overall, how are we ranking? That can see again, how is the overall reach of the show doing and how well is it being grown or being exposed to the larger podcast network? How many total listeners are you getting? So total audience reach are you getting? Okay. So people who are listening to the show for the first time or consistently. You can also look at downloads per episode. So for us, we track within the first 7 days. And then obviously you have data that's longer. We're looking at the downloads of our episodes. So our overall downloads increasing, right? So I have a client, they have I think 200,000 downloads on their podcast. And so if we're trying to increase visibility, we're looking at, okay, well, if they're 200,000 right now, how can we get it to 300,000 as the next target? So we're looking to increase the visibility, the people who are consistently being exposed to and consuming of their show in the sense of starting to be okay, great, I landed on this is what it's telling us. And then after that, we go into nurturing. Now, nurturing, this is the thing for podcasts that I really think is important, which is how much percentage of the episode did they listen to? So this is what I'm looking at, which is overall how many people are listening to it in the sense of retention. So if I have a podcast, let's just say it's 60 minutes, and most of our episodes are around 45 to 60 minutes, some as long as 90 minutes when I really get going. But on average, say it's 60 minutes. Well, I want to know if I'm having total amount of people who are clicking to download the show, are those people listening for 5 seconds? Are they listening for 5 minutes? Are they listening for 50 minutes? Or are they listening to the entire episode? If I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, I want to grow my show, that's okay, great. I can give you all the exposure. But if I'm giving you tons of exposure to your podcast, but people are only consuming 5% of your episodes, well, that tells us that there's a disconnect. It tells us that there's something about the actual content in the podcast that is not activating people, which is why they're not consuming more of it. So we want to know episode completion rate, and we want to know the time that they listen to it on dashboards like Spotify and Apple and all that, it will actually give you that data to show the amount of time that people are listening. So how many minutes, let's say, out of a 60-minute episode are people on average listening? That will tell us our consumption, our nurturing. Because again, we want to remember that if somebody is not listening to our podcast, then great, you clicked it. But if you're not listening to the content, it's not necessarily going to help you in getting that person to the next level, right? So it's not about just getting people landing on it, but also consuming. And third is really looking at interest, or again, intent, which means I don't personally leverage my podcast to sell. Like, this is really just a space for me to pour into you. But if I was going to coach someone on using a podcast to sell, it would be things like, how many people reached out to you in your DMs from the podcast about your offer? How many people, if you have in the show notes a, passive offer or an application, how many people clicked that to start to work with you? How many people did you get to sign up for a certain promotion or a sale that you're doing as a result of an ad that you put inside of your podcast? So if you're leveraging this from a sales intent, then what we would try to be doing to use a podcast to convert is really having interspersed call to actions through show notes, through ads, through mentions throughout the show to try to bring some traffic to your offers. So that would be, again, a way for us to see that the podcast is creating buying intent. And again, here's the thing, which is why we go back to our other mistake we noted, right? Which is like looking at the goal. For me, I don't personally, as myself, like the host of this podcast, like our application is there if someone is interested in looking for it. But the goal of this show is not to convert people. Like, if I was going to convert people, I would be selling and pitching, and here's how you can work with us. I've never offered that on this show. And the reason we don't is because I don't want this to be a place where people are sold to. I don't want this to be a place where you're feeling like every other word is about, how I can help you and all these things. You know where to find me on the internet. If you are looking for me, you know where to find me, okay? If you are interested in that. The thing that I look at for us, our intent, if we're going to look at our category of this, is literally just intent to connect, because our goal is connection and not sales with this. So our intent is to connect with people who listen to the show. So say, for example, you're wanting to connect, it would be joining the Ambitious Network, our free community, which is in the show notes, by the way. That's a free community that is literally a place for all of us to connect. So my intent metric of our show, or my interest level, is how many people are interested in joining our free community. That's a place for us to be able to connect further, because again, that goes back to the data in correlation to our goal. Our goal is not sales, it's connection. So it's great how many people are interested or intending to connect. And so that's how we look at our intention for the last pillar of our podcast. Okay. So that was the visibility, the nurturing, and the interest or intent of a podcast. Now, for our last one here, let's go into something a little bit different, which is, for example, Pinterest. If you're somebody who's leveraging Pinterest for your business, and by the way, I feel like there's so many people, as a side note, who sleep on Pinterest. Pinterest is not something that I personally leverage a lot within my business, but I will tell you that I genuinely just don't do Pinterest because of the capacity aspect of our business, meaning like we're on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and LinkedIn and email and all of these things. Like, I would say blogging and Pinterest are probably like the last piece that we are at this moment as I record it not doing yet. But I will tell you, from a lot of the clients that I work with who do Pinterest for their business, or even have Pinterest agencies or blogging agencies, it is such a leverageable area of business to double down into. So Pinterest, visibility, impressions, monthly viewers, and people who are saving your content. If someone is going to go to your content and they're saving it, it is spreading and staying on people's boards is what it means. So on Pinterest, where we have our saved boards, it means that it, again, indirectly is getting visibility. Impressions is visibility. Monthly viewers, it shows us how many people are actually getting exposed to us and to our brand. So engagement, or like the actual nurturing or the activation, right? If we look at nurture, it's outbound clicks. So how many clicks from pins went to go consume more of your stuff? So how many people are clicking on the pin itself and not just the link is also another thing. So we can look at pin clicks. This is, again, for all those that are in the Pinterest category, but it is something that we would look at, which is to see how many people are going from being exposed to your pins to going and consuming more. And then again, we know visibility, we know nurturing, and now we know interest. Interest would be how many website conversions that you've had came from Pinterest, how many signups or downloads of your offer have happened from people who came from Pinterest? How many pins were we needing to drive the most traffic when it comes to our website or when it comes to maybe our blogs, sales pages, or opt-ins? And again, that is something that's a lot easier to do with using something which would be called a UTM link or a bit.ly link, as I mentioned earlier. So here's the thing I want to say. These are some examples, but what I wanted to do today is I wanted to really break down how simple data can be if you choose it to be. So if I was going to give you an actionable item from today, I would love for you to take your platforms, whatever they are, and you can literally get a spreadsheet out, and on the left-hand side, you can look at, okay, what are all the platforms? So maybe you have a podcast, maybe you have Instagram, you have TikTok, you have all the platforms. And on each of those, all I want you to note is I want you to note 3 categories: the visibility metrics, the nurturing, and the interest or the intent. And you could start, if you're not starting with any data right now and you've got no data, I would start with one piece of data for each of those, right? So maybe you're looking at your emails, for example, and maybe you send out an email right now. So what you could say is our emails, I want to look at how many new people joined our email list this week, how many of those people on average are consuming and like what is our click-through rate, what people are consuming it, and of that, how much conversion from our call to actions or our offers around into our sales process have happened, right? So how many people are moving into the sales process from those emails? What type of interest level is there? So those would be 3 things that you could start on a spreadsheet to look at and just track as a weekly. Remember, we mentioned at the beginning, having this as a practice for yourself. So you can just say every Monday or every Friday, I'm going to come in, I'm going to update the spreadsheet. And this is, again, getting in the routine of collecting data. It's simplifying it and getting you things that help you to understand how to protect the outcome. Meaning, if we want to grow our email list and activate people, we need new people on it. We need to make sure they're consuming and that they're doing something when they get the email. I don't care about anything else if those 3 things are not happening for your emails and if email is your goal. So that would be the first step, the first couple things that I would do to get started. Now, here's the thing. I also want to say for any of my more advanced entrepreneurs, I am not saying that this should start and stay in a spreadsheet. That's to simplify. As I said, we don't want to make it difficult to start. We want to get it done. If you are somebody who's already doing data and you're collecting data and you've already been pouring in and investing energy into doing data, that's great. And that's also something that I really want to make sure is protecting the outcome for you. We have seen countless businesses behind the scenes that have really complex data. They've got crazy dashboards, they've got insane areas that they track, and really super intricate data. But if I ask you to tell me a story of what you're seeing and what's happening, they can't tell me the story. And what I mean by story is, tell me the problem you're experiencing and tell me how you specifically would solve it based off what you're seeing. And oftentimes, people are so overwhelmed by so much data that they actually can't tell me anything. So if you're someone who has more advanced systems, maybe you're using a ClickUp, maybe you've got bit.ly links, you've got all this data, but you're like, Kate, I've been tracking it because I knew I was supposed to track it, but I don't really feel like I have a good understanding. You actually might want to go back to simplifying, which is to not say that you should not track it or any of that anymore. It's to say that you need to be able to compile it in such a way that it gives you a snapshot, a synopsis of how to actually get a story from that. Because it's only once we can use the data for something to make a decision that it's helpful. The data and all of this conversation today is not really a matter of just doing it to do it. It's not checking a box. It's doing it because it helps us to make decisions from a place of knowing instead of guessing. And when we can do that, we can move faster and with more confidence in the business because we're doing so. So I want to thank you so much for spending this time with me today and diving into all things data. And I hope that in some little small sliver of a way, I have convinced you today to fall even more in love with getting into the data of your business because of how much it provides to us and how much of a picture it paints. And so with all that being said, I also, as always, would love to hear from you. What was something that was a download for you today? Maybe there was an aha moment. You're like, maybe I used to hate data and now I'm kind of excited about it. Or maybe you're realizing that you've been overcomplicating data and you got to simplify. Whatever your aha moment is, I would love to hear it from you. My DMs are always open as usual. I love getting the incredible messages from you of things you're working on, the aha moments you had, the actionable items that you've put into action already, and just all of the things. It really just like completely fills my bucket. So I would just love to hear any feedback from you. And with all that being said, as you heard in today's episode, the Ambitious Network is an incredible free community that is designed for women that, like yourself, ambitious in every single category of her life, to connect, to get exclusive resources, trainings, hot seats, and so much more. So I'd love to have you inside. Message us the word ambitious on Instagram if you'd love to join us. And with all that being said, I cannot wait to see you on the next episode. And as always, stay ambitious.